Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Shabbos Daf Ayin Ches. We're 7 lines from the top. It says the Gemara, Mayim, what is the share of Mayim, of water, with regards to Yitzhak Shabbos? How much water does he need to carry out to Rosh Hashanah to be considered a malacha of Yitzhak? Kedei loshav b'henes hakila, enough water, a small amount, sufficient to rub into it, to dissolve into it. The kilar, this plaster's ointment, placed in his eyes for remedial purposes. Omar Abaye, Mechti, let's analyze, let's take a look. Kol milsa de shchicha v'le any item, any substance, which has a dual function, a dual purpose, which can be used for two things. And each purpose, each function, requires a different amount to accomplish that. So which one did the Chachamim follow? We know that the various Shiurim, the amounts, the quantities applied by the Chachamim to the various substances mentioned are based on Chashivas and significance. The Chachamim determine that this amount is sufficient to accomplish a certain task, and it's considered to be Chashiv for Yitzhak Shabbos. So now we have a problem. We have something which has two uses, two functions, and each function requires a different amount of that substance. So which one is regarded as the Shiur for Yitzhak Shabbos? Says Abaye, Kol Milsa, any item, any substance, which has two functions, and one of them is common. One function is commonly employed, and the other one isn't common. The other use is not frequent. Kol Milsa de Shchicha, one of them is Shchiach, is common. V'lo Shchicha, the other one is not frequent, is not common. In that case, Ozal Rabbanon, Basa de Shchicha lekula. The Chachamim follow the function, which is the common one, even though it results in a kula. It results in a leniency. Perhaps that function requires more, a larger amount. And therefore it's a kula, because up until that amount, there's no chiv of Eitzah on Shabbos. So even though it results in a leniency, the Chachamim follow that use, that function, because that is the Shchiach one. That is regarded the primary function of this substance. What if they're both common? Shchicha or Shchicha. And they both have different requirements, different amounts. Which one did the Chachamim follow? In that case, they took one which is Chumrah, the one which requires a lesser amount, which results in a stringency. Explains the Gemara. For instance, we have wine, which serves as a beverage. It can serve as a refuah to dissolve this keeler into it. Which shiur are you meant to follow? The answer is the drinking aspect of it. The use of wine as a beverage is common. Its use as a remedy is not common. And as a result of this, certainly the Chacham followed the amount required for its use as a beverage, since that is the common function, the common use for wine, even though it results in a kula. As we learned in our Mishnah, what is the shiur of yain? A large amount needed to dilute into a koshel bracha, which is larger than the amount simply needed for the dissolving of the remedy of the kilar. Why? Because the drinking aspect is common. Continues Gemara, another example: cholav, milk of animal milk. Achilas shchicha, its use as a beverage is common. Shchicha, its use as a remedy is not common. Here again, azur rabbanim, basa achilas lekula. The Chachamim follow the quantity needed for its use as a beverage, even though it results in a leniency. A larger amount is required for that than merely the shiur for refuah. As we learned in our Mishnah, what is the shiur of chalav? Kedei gmiya, the amount of a swallow, which is larger, which is greater in quantity than the amount simply needed for the refuah to dissolve the keeler into it. Why? Because its use for as a beverage is common. Another example, dvash, honey. Achilas shchicha. Its use as an achila, to eat it, that's frequent, that's common. But refuas shchicha, its use for a remedy, is also common. So we have shchiach versus shchiach. In this case, the Rabbanan followed basa refuas l'chumra. They followed the refuah function, the remedy function, l'chumra, since it results in a stringency. As we learned in our Mishnah, what is the shiur of dvash? Kedei litin al kosis, to place on the sore, which is a very small amount required for refuah, because this shiur is a chumrah. Says the Gemara, what remains to be discovered here is the shiur applied to water. Water also has a double function. Ela mayim michti. Let's think. Let's analyze. It's used as a beverage is common. It's used for a remedy is not common. As Rashi explains, the dissolving of the keeler would take place with other forms of liquid, since water was reserved to quench one's thirst. So why, if so, does the Chacham follow the smaller amount required for a full, which is a chumrah? My time, azal rabbanon basar refuah l'chumrah. Why does the Mishnah tell us that the shiur of mayim is to dissolve the keeler, which is a refuah, which is a small amount, rather than the larger amount required when it's being used as a beverage, which is a shchiach, which is a function which is common? Amar Abaye beglila shanu. The Mishnah here is speaking about in Galil, in the northern portion of Eretz Yisrael, where Rashi explains they were aniyim, they were poor, and they would save their other beverages, their wine, their milk. They would not use it for the refuah, rather they would use water to dissolve their keeler. If so, says Rashi, the refuah in this locale was also common. The water was employed for refuah, and therefore we have a choice between it's being used as a beverage, which is common, and it's being used as a refuah, which is common, and we follow the one which is more chamer, which results in a chumrah, in a stringency. Rava Amar, afilu tema b'shar mekaymis. Even if you say that the Mishnah is relating to other locales, other places, nevertheless, water was the ideal ingredient to be employed for the refuah of the keeler. Why? Because the Shmuel told us, Damar Shmuel, kol shikiyani, all types of mashkin, of liquids, which are used to dissolve this keeler, this eye plaster, masu, indeed they cure, umethalali. However, they present a glaze, they crust over. It's annoying. Levar mi maya, except for water, the masu, it cures v'loy metali. Water doesn't present this crust, and therefore it is the ideal beverage, the ideal liquid, to be employed in the refuah of the keeler. So if so, Rava says, we see that water was also employed as a refuah. In fact, it's ideal to use water as a refuah, therefore it's regarded as shchiach, something common. So once again, we have a choice between two options. The water being used as a beverage, which is common, and it being used as a refuah, which is also common. Therefore, we follow the option which is l'chumra, which is more stringent, and certainly the amount used for refuah is very small, and it results in a stringency with regards to Yitzhak Shabbos. Even a small amount, such as the amount needed to dissolve the keeler, is already regarded as sufficient for the malacha of Yitzhak Shabbos. So in summary, Abaye gave us a rule of thumb. When we have a choice between shchiach and lishchiach, common and uncommon, we follow the common use. That's why when it comes to yayin and chalav, we follow the shiur required when they're used as a beverage, since that function is shchiach. Refuah in those cases are not shchiach. When it comes to dvash, both functions are shchiach. Its use as a food and as a remedy are both shchiach, and therefore we follow the refuah option, since it results in a chumrah and a stringency. When it comes to mayim as well, the Gemara determines that yes, both functions, both uses are shchiach. Its use as a beverage and as a refuah are both common. Why is it used as a refuah? Either we're speaking about in the Galil, or as Rava says, water generally is the ideal ingredient to be used for this keeler, and therefore it is considered to be common, and therefore we apply the shiur of refuah when it comes to mayim for Yitzhak Shabbos. Continues the Gemara. Ushar kalamashkin b'revis. So the other beverages have a shiur of revis halug when it comes to Yitzhak Shabbos. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Bryce, dam, blood, v'chol minei mashkin, and other forms of liquids, other forms of drinks, b'revis, have a shiur of revis halug when it comes to Yitzhak Shabbos. Dam, there's a certain type of blood which has a different shiur, a smaller amount. Kidei lichol bayin achas, to apply to one eye for a refuah, for a remedy. Shekain koichlan lebarkis, because they would use this specific form of dam, of blood, as a refuah for the condition of barkis. Barkis was some sort of protrusion, some sort of wart in the eye. Umaynina, what type of blood specifically are we speaking about? Damar the tarnagoyles bar, the blood of a wild hen. Dam, there's another form of blood, another type, which also has the same shir, they likhol by an achas, that is amount sufficient to apply to one eye. It's considered to be sufficient shir for Yitzhak Shabbos, shekain koichnol yared, because this type of dam is used as a remedy, as a refuah, for the condition called yared. Some say it's like a cataract. And what type of blood are we speaking about here? My niu, dama de krushtina, the blood of a bat. So once again, according to Shimon Lazar, if one is mitzi, if one carries out a dam of a tarnagoyles bar, of a wild hen, in that case, if it even has a small amount, which is sufficient to apply to one eye, in that case, it is regarded as chashav, as significant enough, since it can potentially be used for that remedy, for this person who needs it. Because this concept applies to the dam of a krushtina as well. Says the Gemara, b'simonach, in order for you to have a simon, not to get confused, which type of blood is used for which condition. Gava legava, the inner for the inner. This is referring to the blood of the krishtina, of the bat, which is generally found inside within human habitat, within the settlements in the city. So it's an inner creature, and that is applied to a condition which is regarded as an inner condition. The yara, this cataract, Rashi says it's shekeya b'seich ayin. It sinks into the eye. It's in the inner of the eye. It recesses into the eye. So this type of blood is applied as a remedy for this type of condition. Bara lebrar, the outer one for the outer condition. So the outer one is referring to the dam of the tarnagoyles bara, this wild hen, which is considered to be an outer creature. It roams the wilderness, and that is applied to a condition of bra, of an exterior condition. This is the condition that we mentioned before, the barkus, this protrusion, this wart, which sticks out of the eye. So it's regarded as an outer condition. So inner to inner and outer to outer. Okay, continues the Brayso. When are all these measures, these amounts, these quantities said? It's regarding a person who actually carried it out. But if one takes a substance and hides it and stores it, kol shu chayiv. But a person who hides things, even if he takes a little small amount, a minute amount of kol shu, he regards it as chashav. He attributes significance even to a small, minute amount. He's chayiv. Rav Shimon Omer, just the opposite. All these shiurim are only said with regards to a person who actually stores it and attributes chashiva, significance to it. But an ordinary person who simply carries it out, he hadn't previously stored it. He simply is carrying out these liquids. He's only chayiv if it has the shiur revius. So this discussion here is regarding all these liquids and their respective shiurim, their quantities determined by the chacham. Tanakama says that this is only relating to a person who's moitzi. Shimon says just the opposite. It only relates to a person who first stored it, gave it chashivas, gave this amount significance. But an ordinary person, he needs a shiur of revius in order to be chayiv on a of these liquids. Umaydim chacham, Reb Shimon, chacham agreed to Reb Shimon. But if one should carry out wastewater, it's not something which has much significance. In that case, shiur b'revius. In that case, he needs to have a shiur revius. And the Gemara will explain what exactly it's used for. So Chacham agree that by shayvchen the shiur indeed is revius. Amar, we just learned. When will all these amounts, the shiurim, which were applied to liquids, when was it said? B'moitzi, if one carries it out. But if one stores it, then even a minute amount, he's already liable for. Says the Gemara, just by storing it, he's chayiv. Atu matzniya l'moitziu. You mean to say he only stored it, he hadn't carried it out? And already he's chayiv. What do he do? Says the Gemara, Omar Abaye. This is what the Brayso means to say. Hachab Ma'eskina was speaking about Betalmid She'amad Le Rabbi. There was a student who his teacher told him, Leich upnei li hamokim l'suda. Go clear out the area in preparation for the meal. Holach upinaloi. He went and he cleared out the items, he took it out into Shusarab. So if it's pinaloi davar choshev lakoil, if it's something which is significant to all people, ordinary people regard this as something davar choshev, chayiv iliyah. In that case, the Talmud is chayiv on account of carrying it out into Shusarab. However, davar she'ein choshev lakoil, something which does not have significance to all, it's not the right type of item, it's not the right quantity. In that case, it depends. If the master had initially stored it, had attributed significance to this item, in that case, the student is responsible, is held accountable, is chayiv for carrying out this item to Shusarab. But if the master had not attributed chashiva to it, he had stored it previously, the student is not chayiv for carrying it out, since it's not the right type of item or the right quantity. But if the master had attributed significance to it, he had stored it previously, in that case, the item attains chashivas, it gets significance, and anybody who would carry it out subsequently is chayiv. Rashi points out, apparently we're following the shita of Reb Shimon Lazar mentioned earlier on Daf Ayin Vav, who told us that once any person attributes chashivas, Ruvain considers this to be a davar chashav, he stores it. In that case, the item has attained chashivas significance, and anybody who will carry it out will be chayav on the yitzah. Mar, we learned previously, Moedim Chacham Reb Shimon. Chacham agreed to Reb Shimon, if one carries out wastewater in the Shusarab, Shiur and Revi'is, the Shiur is a Revi'is haluk. So what purpose does wastewater serve? What is it used for? He's merely trying to clear out his home of this wastewater without any function, without any purpose to it. There's nothing that he can use it for. In that case, it's regarded as a malacha she'ein tzricha legufa. He's doing a malacha, but he doesn't need it for its own sake. And we know there's a machlokes, whether he's chayiv or pater. Someone's going to analyze it. Why is he carrying out this shchayfchen? What function, what purpose does it serve? Amar of Yirmiyah legabel ben satit. Indeed, it does serve a function. It is used to mix the clay, the cement with it. So we need a revi'is. That is the proper amount, which is sufficient to mix with it a certain amount of clay, which is deemed sufficient, deemed enough to be considered a proper quantity to regard as a melacha beitzah. Says the Gemara, we need that much. V'atani, we learned in the Brisa, tit. How much clay, if one actually carries out the tit itself, what is the amount for hitzah? Kadei lasis ben pikur. Enough to fashion a pikur, the mouth, the opening of the core, this small furnace used by the smelters, the gold refiners, for instance. So they would fashion this little opening there. So that's how much clay is needed for the melacha veitzah. That's a very small amount. So why, when it comes to the sheifchen, this wastewater, do we need a revi'is, which is sufficient to produce a large amount of clay? Says in Malay Kash, it's not difficult. Ha de migval, ha de loy migval. The Brisa, which tells us tit, kadei lasas ben pikor, a small amount of clay, was speaking a tit which was already prepared, was already needed. So he doesn't need to go and prepare it anew. He's taking ready-made clay. In that case, even this amount is regarded as chashav, as significant. Ha, by us. The loy migval, it wasn't yet prepared, it wasn't yet needed. Lefi she'ein adam teirech, a person will not burden himself legabel tit, to mix tit, to prepare clay, to prepare the cement lasas pikur, to a small amount simply to use lasas pikur to fashion the opening of this core. It's too small to burden himself to go ahead and start getting into the process of preparing and mixing this clay. So if it's ready-made, prepared clay, yes, a small amount of clay is sufficient for the melacha veitzah. It's regarded as significant. A person will carry out this small amount to go ahead and to form the pikur, so it's regarded as sufficient for the melacha. However, when it comes to preparing clay, he's going to carry out this sheifchen, this wastewater, for the purpose of preparing the clay, getting the cement ready. He's not going to burden himself to merely prepare a small amount of clay. Therefore, we need a large amount, a revi'is, which indeed is sufficient to produce a larger amount of clay, which he will use for various functions. And therefore, it is regarded as a sufficient amount of water, since it can yield a significant result. Continues the Gemara, if one carries out rope, what is the shiur? K'dei lasis oizen lekup, sufficient to go ahead and fashion a handle for the basket. Gemi, this reed grass, k'dei lasis slai, to fashion a hanging loop for a sieve or a sifter. Rabbi Yehuda omer k'dei litol mimenu midas mina lakot. How much gemi is needed? It's actually a lesser amount according to Rabbi Yehuda. The amount sufficient to take the measurement, the foot measurement of a cotton, in order to bring it to the shoemaker, to go ahead and design produce a shoe for him. K'dei litol mimenu midas mina, the shoe size cotton for a cotton. Niyar, what is the shiur of niyar? Paper, Rashi says, made from grass. K'dei lichtav olav kesha meichsen, large enough to write on it a tax receipt. As Rashi explains, the kesha meichsen was actually two large size letters. So this was the tax receipt. Actually, it was a toll receipt when they would pass the river. So the amount of paper which is large enough to write on it this tax receipt is considered to be sufficient for itself. The Mishnah continues, V'amoitzi kesha meichsen chayiv. Person actually carries out this receipt, he's chayiv. Niyar machak, erased paper. What does erased paper mean? It had already previously been written upon, it was erased, and now it's rubbed out. It can't be used. It's not suitable to be written upon any longer. In this case, it's meant to serve as for another function. Niyar machak, what is the amount of niyar machak for yitzah? Kedei lichroich al tzloiches ktana shel palyotan, sufficient amount to wrap over the mouth of its tzloiches ktana, a small container of palyotan, the fragrant oil. Palyotan was the shemen afarsamine mentioned many times. Oir, what is the shiur of leather? Kedei lasis kamiyah, to encase an amulet. Klaf, parchment. Kedei lichtav olav parsha ktana shebektilin, sufficient to write on it. This smallest parsha of tefillin, Shema Yisrael, which begins with Shema Yisrael, ends with the pasuk Savtam al mezuzos v'secha v'sharecha. Diyoy, how much ink? They lichtay base oisis, sufficient to write two letters. Kechoil, eye paint. Kei likchoil ayin achas, to apply to one eye. Devek, glue. Kei litein b'reish hashavshit, to place on top of the board. The Gemara will explain what exactly this was used for. Zefes v'gafres, pitch or sulfur. Kei lasis, nekef, in order to form to close up the mouth. Rashi says this was a kli which they would place kesef chai. Apparently, he's speaking about liquid mercury. So they would go ahead and they close up the mouth of the kli with using either zefes or gafris, and then they would go ahead and make a small puncture in that zefes or gafris to extract the mercury. So the zefes or gafris are kedei lasis nekev, in order to close up this hole in the kli, and to go ahead and puncture in it the hole. Shava, what is the shiur of wax? Kedei litin al pi nekev, cotton, to close up a small puncture made in a barrel of wine. Charsis, crushed brick. Kedei lasis pikur shel tzofei zav, to use it to fashion the pikur, this mouth, this opening of the core of this little furnace for the gold refiners. Rabbi Yehuda omer kedei lasis pitput, in order to use it to repair a tripod. Subin, what is the shiur of bran? Kedei litin al pikur shel tzofei zav. So these gold refiners, if they would then have access to coals, so they would use the subin, the bran, as fuel for their refiner. Sid, what is the shiur of seed of lime? K'dei losed ktana shebabanis, to smear on the pinky of a young girl. Rabbi Yehuda omer k'dei lasis kilkil, to make kilkil. Rabbi Necham Yomi k'dei losed undipi, and the Gemara will explain exactly what these things mean. Lasis kilkil and losed undafi. Continues the Gemara. We began with the Mishnah of Chevel, to make sufficient to make a handle of a basket. When it comes to gemi, the shiur there was to make the loop, to hang up the sieve with it. Says the Gemara, chevel, when it comes to rope, nami lechayiv, k'dei la'ases sloi lenafel akvara. Why, when it comes to rope, did the Mishnah give us a larger amount? The amount necessary to make this handle for the basket, why wasn't it sufficient? The amount needed to make this small loop, the hanging loop for the sieve or the sifter. Says it's not used for that function. Even the chorek b'mana, since the coarse rope scrapes the utensil of the inshi, it's not used for that in that manner. Therefore, the Mishnah needs to give us a different shiur, the shiur of a handle for a basket. Tana Rabban went to the brayso. Hutzin. Hutzin is the lulav branches. Sufficient to make a handle for lisal kfifa mitzvahs, for a basket made of palm branches. Siv, what is the shiur of the siv substance? Rashi says it's something which grows around the palm tree. Acherim oimrim, others say, we know that acherim is actually referring to Reb Meir. The shiur of the siv is k'dei litain, enough, sufficient to place the litain al pi mashpich cotton, to place on the mouth of a small funnel, the sun and the sayayin, to strain through it the wine. Revav, grease, k'dei losuch, to smear tachas, is pugin, ktana, to place the smear on in the oven underneath a small roll. The kama shiura, how large is this roll? Kesela, the size of a sela coin. V'atanya, haven't we learned kugorgeres, the size of a dried fig? Both sela and gorgeres actually the same amount. Muchen, what is the amount for it? So when it comes to muchen, the fluffy material, to fashion from it a small ball. The kama shiura, what size ball are we speaking about? Ke'ega is the size of an ega, is the size of a walnut. So in summary, the Gemara gave us various shiurim, amounts required for various substances. When it comes to a Shabbos, the shiur of dam is revius, except for specific types of dam which are used as a remedy. In that case, the shiur is likchol ayin achas, to apply to one eye. The shiur of shofchen, wastewater, is a revius, which is sufficient to produce a significant amount of clay, of cement. We have chevel, rope, gemi, a list of 16 items where the Chachamim prescribe specific shiurim, quantities, which are deemed sufficient to perform their respective functions. In that case, they have significance, they have chashivas with regards to Yitzhas Shabbos. Continues the Gemara. Niyar, what is the shiur of blank paper? Kadei lichtev olav keshamochsen. Sufficient amount of niyar to record on it the keshamochsen, this toll receipt. Tana, we learned in the brayso. Kama keshamochsen. How large is this keshamochsen? Shtei oisis, 2 large size letters. V'raminu, says the Gemara. Well, ask a kash from a brayso. Hamoitzi niyar chalak, if one carries niyar chalak. Im yesh ba ikidei lichtev shtei oisis. If there's enough space to write 2 letters, and the brayso seems to imply even 2 ordinary size letters, chayev, then is chayev. V'im la, but otherwise patur. So it seems to be a contradiction between the first brayso and the second brayso. Omer av sheishes mai shtei oisis. Brayso number 2, which uses the word shtei oisis, what does it mean? Shtei oisis shel keshamochsen. These large character, these large oisis of the keshamochsen. There's no contradiction whatsoever. Rav Amar, shtei oisis dedan. When brayso number 2 uses the word shtei oisis, it's referring to ordinary size letters. U beis achiza. However, we meant to add on the margin, a space to grab on to the paper. So when the brayso says shtei oisis, the brayso assumes that we're going to add a little bit more, which is needed to take hold, to grip the paper. So in total, the amount needed for the shtei oisis, the ordinary 2 ordinary size letters, plus the beis achiza, certainly equals amount needed to write the 2 large size letters. Rav Amar shtei oisis dedan. The 2 oisis are ordinary size letters. U beis achiza, meant to add on this beis achiza, dahainu. So in total, it equals keshamochsen, the large size paper needed to write on it the 2 large letters of the tax receipt. Meisve, we have a kasha from a third brayso. Hamoitzi niyar machuk, if one carries out this erased paper, this paper which was previously written upon and it's rubbed out, unsuitable for writing any longer. Or he carries out ushtar parua, or a loan document which has already been paid up. So the halacha is as follows: if there's still some clean margin available, enough to record 2 letters. Alternatively, if the entire sheet here, this entire niyar machak or shtapuro, has has enough there to wrap it upon the mouth of the tzleichas tana, small container containing this fragrant oil, chayiv. In either one of these cases is chayiv. So once again, either there's a sufficient clean margin to record two oisius, or alternatively, you can use the entire thing as a wrapping, then it's chayiv. But if it does not conform to this, potter is potter. Says Rabbi Shleim with Rav Sheshes. So this works well according to Rav Sheshes. The Amar who told us, "My shtei oisis." What is the definition of the word shtei oisis mentioned in the Brisa number 2? Shtei oisis kasha meichsen. It's referring to the large characters, 2 large letters used by the kasha meichsen. So here too, when the Brisa tells us in Brisa number 3, when the Brisa uses the word shtei oisis, it's also referring to 2 large size letters. Sharper, so it works well. Ela Rava, however, according to Rava, will have a problem. According to Rava, who told us, the Amar who says shtei oisis didan u beis achiza. Now, what is the meaning? Back in Brisa number 2, the meaning of the word shtei oisis, it means 2 ordinary size letters. But we're meant to add the beis achiza as well. The Brisa just assumes that we'll understand that it also needs some space, some gripping space. So when we add both areas together, the place needed for the 2 regular oisis plus the beis achiza, this will indeed equal the same space, the same area, the area required for recording of this tax receipt, which contains 2 large size letters. So according to Rava, it won't work with the third Brisa. Why? Because Hacha, in the third Brisa, we're speaking about a case where he has niyar machak. He has a sheet of paper which has been rubbed out already, and there's just a little bit left, a little blank space there, somewhere in this niyar, where you can write 2 small letters. In this case, he doesn't need additional empty space for beis achiza, because he can simply grab on to anywhere in the niyar machak, and the other section of the niyar machak, of the rubbed out area, that can serve as a beis achiza. Similarly, in the case of shtat parua, so he has a loan document which has writing all over it, which has been paid up. The Brisa tells us if there's still some room available to write 2 small letters, 2 standard size letters, that's sufficient. Now, once again, here we don't need additional empty space to be used as a beis achiza, because you can simply grab on to the other section. The section contains the writing. So the Brisa speaks about shtei oisis. The Brisa is specifically speaking about an area which strictly holds 2 small letters, without any additional room for beis achiza. Because in this case, beis achiza is not necessary. He'll simply grab on to the rest of the paper. So apparently, shtei oisis here is a very small area, amount sufficient to write simply 2 small letters. This won't be compatible with the shiur of kesher meichsen discussed earlier in Brisa number 1, which tells us we need a large area sufficient to write 2 large size letters. According to Rava, it won't work. Ela Rava de Amar shtei oisis didan u beis achiza daina kesher meichsen. When the Brisa number 2 referred to shtei oisis, it meant, a place to write 2 ordinary letters, but we assume that we also add some place for the beis achiza. So in total, it will be large enough to write 2 large letters. But in this case, in Brisa number 3, with the niyar machak and the shtat parua, hocha beis achiza leitzarech. We don't need additional empty space for the beis achiza, because he has sufficient room to grab the shtar on its writing. So shtei oisis here simply means just enough space to write 2 small letters. This won't concur with the halacha mentioned earlier. Kasha, indeed, it's difficult. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in the Brisa. Hamaitzi kesher meichsen. If one carries out this tax receipt, this toll receipt, if he hadn't yet showed it to the tax collector, chayiv, then he's chayiv for carrying it because it still has value. But once he showed it to he's already displayed it to the tax collector, it has no value, potter, and therefore he's potter. Rav Yehuda Omer, Af Mesher Ola Meiches Chayiv, even after he displayed it to the toll collector, he's still Chayiv and Pnei Shetzorach Lei, because he still needs this receipt. It still has value. This is where my binayu. What is the point of contention here? Why does Rav Yehuda regard it as an item of value? And the Tanna Kama disagrees. Amar Abai, I'll tell you what. Ike binayu, Re'yiti Moichsa, the runners of the tax collector. So they had these runners who run after the passengers and harass them, accuse them of beating the tax, of evading the toll. So therefore, Yehuda says, even after he displayed it to the tax collector, he still needs to hold on to the receipt to fend off these runners. Therefore, it still has value. The Tanna Kama maintains no. At worst case, he'll just turn back, go back to the tax collector, who will attest to his honesty. Rav Amar, another reason why Rav Yehuda maintains it still has value, Meiches Gadol, a senior tax collector, Umeiches Katan, and a junior, a subordinate tax collector. This is the point of contention. According to Rav Yehuda, what happens is that the senior collector, he appoints a junior collector, and the senior one goes home. He's not available. Now, the senior collector knows that he paid his taxes, but the Meiches Katan perhaps doesn't know. So he still needs the receipt to display, to show it to the Meiches Katan. Therefore, it still has value. According to the Tanna Kama, at worst case, according to the Tanna Kama, there's no concern here. Why? Because we assume that the Meiches Gadol, the boss, has already given over that information to a subordinate that in fact this fellow paid his taxes. Rav Ashi Amar, there's another reason. We're speaking about a single toll collector. Nevertheless, he still needs the receipt. He needs to show it to the other toll collector down river, because he's showing it to him and he's telling him, Chazi, take a look, Gavra, the Meiches, I'm a person, I'm a Gavra. The Meiches, I pay my taxes, I pay my tolls. Don't ever accuse me of being dishonest. So he wants to establish his reputation to the other fellow down the road. Therefore, according to Rav Yehuda, the receipt still has some value and he's chayiv on the Yitzhak. So in summary, if one carries a kesher moichsen, if it's prior to displaying his chayiv, if he already displayed it to the tax collector, according to Rabban, he's potter. According to Rav Yehuda, it still has some value. The Gemara gives us 3 reasons: to fend off the runners, to display to the junior collector, or to establish his reputation to the collector downriver. Tana Rabban, we learned in the Bryce. If one carries out a loan document, if it has not yet been collected, if the shtar has not yet been paid up, then certainly it has value. Chayev. So he's chayev upon carrying it out because it is an item of value. Misha paroi. But if the malva, if the creditor is carrying it after he's already collected his loan, pater, in that case has no value, and he's pater. Rav Yehuda Omer, af misha paroi chayev. Even after the loan is already collected, he is chayev for carrying this shtar because he still needs it. That's one my binayo. What is the point of disagreement here? Why would he still need it, according to Rav Yehuda, and why would the Tanna Kama disagree with that? The Gemara gives us 4 approaches to the machlekes. Rav Yosef. What is the point of contention? Asur lasha is shtar paroi kebenayu. The question here is whether there's an isser to retain, to hold on to a shtar which has already been paid up. That is the point of contention. Rabbanan Sabri Asur lasha shtar paroi. Rabbanan hold one may not retain a paid up loan document, as Rashi brings the pasuk al tishkan be'alecha avla. One is not meant to have an avla, an injustice, dwell in his home. A paid up loan document is considered to be an avla because perhaps it can result in the loan being collected again. Therefore, one may not hold on to this type of item. So the malva, the creditor, will not hold on to it. As Rashi points out, the loiva as well, the borrower, won't either hold on to it for fear that perhaps it might end up in the hands of the malva again. And perhaps he will go and collect his loan all over again. So therefore, this piece of paper, this shtar parua, has no value whatsoever. Rav Yehuda savar mutar lashi shtar parua. One may indeed retain a paid up loan document. Therefore, the malva has use for it. He takes it and uses it as a wrapper around his container. It's tzleiches shel payot. And therefore, according to Rav Yehuda, this the shtar parua is considered to be an item of value. And if the malva carries it out in Shesarabim, he's chayv. Abai Yomer, I have another approach to the machlekes. The Kul Yam all agree, Asur lashish shtar parua. One may not retain a loan document which has already been paid up. If so, what is the point of machlekes here? We're speaking about a shtar which not necessarily was already paid up. Rather, the loiva, it was the borrower who was claiming that he's already paid up his loan. Explains the Gemara. The loiva, the borrower, agrees. He's moide that the shtar is a valid shtar. Shekasa, he wrote the shtar. It's a valid shtar. It's an authentic shtar. It's not forged. These signatures are valid. However, he's claiming that he's already paid up the loan. So he's saying two things at once. It's valid on one hand, but on the other hand, the loan has already been collected. The question is, in this type of scenario, can we rely on the words of the loiva? Can we say, well, you've agreed that this shtar is valid, you have proved its authenticity, and therefore we can collect with it? Or do we say that, once we listen to one part of a statement, we need to listen all the way through? You must believe him that the loan has been paid up as well. And in that case, you can't validate the shtar based on the words of the loiva, because either you believe at all or you believe nothing. In that case, the malva needs to be mekayim the shtar. He needs to find an alternate source of verification. Otherwise, he can't use it. He can't use the shtar. And as Taisus points out, apparently in our case, in our Gemara, the malva, the creditor knows that he has no alternate source of verification. And therefore, he needs to rely on the words of the loiva. The question is, can he rely on his words and use the shtar to collect with? Or, if he relies on the first portion, that the shtar is valid, he needs to believe the second portion as well, that the shtar, we need to believe the second portion of the loiva as well, that the shtar has been paid up, and therefore it cannot be used for collection. Let's see the Gemara again. The loiva agrees, he's moide, that he wrote the shtar, but he claims that the loan has already been collected. The question is, the question is, in this case, whether or not the malva, the creditor, needs to be mekayim the shtar on his own. He needs to find an alternate source of verification to validate the shtar. He cannot rely on the words of the loiva. Tanakama savar, Tanakama holds, moide b'shtar shekasvoi. In this case, tzarech lekayimoi. The malva needs to verify, needs to validate the shtar through his own sources. And since in our case, in our Gemara, he has no source, he has no means of verifying the validity of the shtar, therefore he can't use the shtar to collect with it. Because the loiva, who's validating the shtar, is claiming that the shtar was paid up. Therefore, according to Tanakama, this shtar has no value, it's worthless. And that is the meaning of the brisa. The shtar, misha paroi, once the loiva has claimed that he had already paid up the shtar, the choiv, in this case, the malva can't use it, it's worthless. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Believe him halfway. Believe the words of the loiva when he says that the shtar was a valid shtar. But disregard the rest of the statement, the claim that he's already paid it up, that we don't believe. Therefore, the malva can still use the shtar. The shtar's value has worth. And therefore, if he carries it on Shabbos, he's chayv. Rabbi Yehuda moide b'shtar shekasvoi, in this case, that the loiva is moide. Ein tzorech l'kayim, the malva does not need to verify it independently. He can use the shtar based on the admission of the loiva, and therefore it has value. Umay acheloi paroi umishapari. What does the brisa mean? The brisa began by saying, if somebody is moitzi shtar choiv, acheloi paroi. This is the first word of the first line of the brisa. Tanarabban, hamoitzi shtar choiv, acheloi paroi chayiv. If it's prior to having been paid up, he's chayiv. If it's already paroi, then he's patur. Says the Gemara, it doesn't mean literally prior to collection and after collection. Umay acheloi paroi, prior to collection. Umishapari, once you already paid him. What does it mean? It doesn't mean literally paid and not paid. It means asher yomer loiva parati v'lei parati. We're speaking about the word, the claim of the loiva. So, if he agrees lei parati, this loan has not yet been collected, and certainly the malva who carries out this shtar and Shabbos is chayiv. It's valuable. He can use it for collection. But if the loiva sheyomer loiva parati, when the loiva says parati, he claims that this chayiv has already been paid up. He's already paid up his dues. In this case, according to Tanakama, it has no value. It's worthless. The malva can't use it to collect. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it has value because the malva can still use it. Continues the Gemara, Rav Amar, a third approach to the machlekes. The Kuliyama all agree. When the loiva admits, but he claims that he's paid it up, shetzarech l'kaimoi, the Malva can't use it unless he independently verifies the validity of the shtar. So where is the machlekes? So we're speaking about a case where he had already paid up the loan. It's not just merely a claim. All agree. The Malva agrees that the loan is already paid up. The shtar is already parua. And the Malva has possession of the shtar. The question is as follows. The question is, what is the accepted practice? What is the proper halachic procedure when one pays up a debt? Does the creditor simply issue him a receipt, a shoiver, koisvin shoiver? Or perhaps that's not fair, because maybe if you give him a receipt, the loiva might lose it, and it may result in the malva going and collecting the money all over again. So it's not fair to give him a shoiver. You must give him the actual, don't document and return. You must return the shtar chayv to him. So this question of whether we write a receipt or insist on the return of the document, that is the point of contention between Rav Yehuda and Tanna Kama. Explains the Gemara. Again, Rav Amar Dukuli Am all agreed that if the loiva is claiming that it's a good shtar but I paid it up, the Malva can't use it unless he independently verifies the authenticity of the shtar. Rather, we're speaking about a case where he actually paid up the loan. There's no discussion, no disagreement about that. Machlekes is based on the question of whether the Malva, the creditor, will write a receipt, issue a receipt to the loiva. Tanna Kama savar, koisvin shoiver. Tanna Kama maintains that the Malva may as well write a receipt. That's acceptable. And therefore, when the Malva is in possession of the shtar chayv, it's not something of value. It's worthless. It's been paid up already, and he's not meant to hold on to it. As Rashi explains, we're not allowed to hold on to a document which is already paid up. As we mentioned before, asur lasher shtar parua. Therefore, this document has no value whatsoever. So the Malva who's in possession of the shtar is valueless. For Rabbi Yehuda savar, ain't koisvin shoiver. We don't write a receipt. We don't issue receipts. Rather, the Malva is obligated to actually return the shtar chayv to the loiva. So in this case, says Rabbi Yehuda, when the Malva is still in possession of the shtar chayv, this shtar must be safeguarded. The Malva holds on to it for dear life, because if he loses this shtar chayv and doesn't return it to the loiva is going to go back and reclaim his money. He's going to have his money returned to him because you don't return the shtar chayv to me. So therefore, this shtar chayv, a paid up shtar chayv in the possession of the Malva, carries great value. But the Malva needs to safeguard it. It's valuable. He needs to give it back to the loiva. Otherwise, the loiva will reclaim his money. So this is the basis of the machlekes. We're speaking about a loan which was already paid up. All agree that it was paid up. The Malva, the creditor, is in possession of this shtar chayv. Tanna Kama says it's valueless. It's worthless. Therefore, if he carries it on Shabbos, he's pot. Rav Yehuda says he needs to safeguard it, because he still needs to give it back to the loiva. He can't simply issue him a receipt. He needs to give the actual shtar chayv to him. Therefore, it is something of value to the Malva, and if he carries it on Shabbos, he's chayv. A fourth approach, Rav Ashi Omar, was speaking about the loan document in the hands of the loiva. It's been paid up. And why does the loiva still value this loan document according to Rabbi Yehuda? Because he needs it to show, to display to the next creditor. He wants to borrow money again. He's going to bring along the shtar chayv to show him, to establish his reputation. The Amalei tells him, Chazi, take a look, Gavra, a man, the parna, I'm a man who pays up his loans. I'm an honest fellow, a man of integrity. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he still will hold on to this paid up loan document for the purpose of displaying it to the next fellow, to establish his good name and reputation. Therefore, it still has value. Apparently, Tanna Kama disagrees. He holds that's not regarded as significant enough to give it value, and therefore, if he carries it on Shabbos, he's potter. So, in summary, we learned a brisa regarding a moitzi shtar chayv. So, one who carries a loan document, if it's prior to having been collected, then certainly he's chayiv. If the shtar was already parua, according to Tanna Kama, he's potter. According to Rabbi Yehuda, is chayiv. We have four approaches. Rabbi Yosef explains that the machlekes is based on the question of whether there's an isser to retain, to hold on to a shtar which has already been paid up, according to the Rabbanan, it's asur. Therefore, the malva can't hold on to it. And therefore, it's valueless, it's worthless. And as Rashi pointed out, the loiva certainly won't want to hold on to it for fear that it might end up back in the hands of the malva. It might collect with it again. So it's valueless, it's worthless. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the malva may hold on to a shtar parua. Therefore, he holds on to it, he retains it for some sort of trivial use to wrap it around his container. Therefore, he's chayev for carrying Rishis Rabbim. Abaye explains that we're speaking about a case with the loiva. The borrower says, yes, it's a valid shtar, but I've already paid it up. It's parua. According to the Rabbanan, the shtar is considered to be null and void at this point, because we must rely on the words, on the claim of the loiva. And therefore the malva can't collect with it. It's worthless. According to Rav Yehuda, we don't accept the claim of the loiva, and therefore the malva can still use it to collect with it. It has value, and therefore if he carries it on Shabbos, he's chayiv. So according to Rav Yosef, we're speaking about parua, meaning that the loiva is claiming that it was parua. According to Rabbanan, we accept. According to Rav Yehuda, we don't accept that claim. Rava has another approach. The chayiv was certainly paid up. It was a shtar parua. The Rabbanan maintain that the malva simply writes a receipt. He doesn't need the actual loan document any longer. It's valueless, it's worthless. According to Rav Yehuda, receipt is not sufficient. He needs to actually return the actual loan document to the loiva. So when the malva is in possession of this document, it carries great value. He needs to safeguard it, because if he doesn't return it to the loiva is going to retrieve his money. So it's an item of value, and if he carries it on Shabbos, he's chayiv. Rav Ashi says, we're speaking that a loan was certainly paid up. According to Rabbanan, it has no value. According to Rav Yehuda, it still has value, still carries some value for the loiva, because he will display it to the next creditor to establish his good name and reputation. Okay, time for a brief chazara. On today's daf, we began with a formula presented by Abaye. If we have a substance which has a dual function, then we follow the function which is common, even if it results in a kula. For instance, the wine, the yayin, and the chalav. We give them a larger shiur to reflect the use as a beverage, which is considered to be the common function. Regarding dvash, which has a dual function, it's meant for consumption as well as for refuah. In that case, we follow the refuah, which is a smaller amount, because that is the chumrah, since they're both common functions. Regarding mayim, that too has a dual function, and they're both regarded as common. And therefore, we relate to the small shiur, which is sufficient for refuah. The Gemara proceeded with the shiur of dam, which is revius, except specific types which are meant for remedy and require less. The wastewater is also shiur revius. In order to produce the tit, this clay, we have a list of 16 items with respective quantities. We have the halacha b'amoitzi kesher moichsin. If one carries out this tax receipt, so if it's prior to displaying it to the tax collector, he's chayiv. If after he displayed it, according to Rabbanan, he's potter, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's still chayiv. The Gemara explained 3 reasons why it still carries some value. And finally, one who is moitzi a shtar chayiv, a loan document, if it has already been paid up, if it's a shtar parua, according to Rabbanan, he's potter. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he's chayiv. The Gemara presented 4 approaches to explain the background and basis of their machlekes.